Hey guys, it's Tizzy Time, and today I have a very special guest with me. You guys are going to be super excited to learn more about him and what it is that he does, but I can only give so much of an intro, so I'm going to let my special co host for today give his intro. And yeah, take it away.
My name is Jamie Apps. Thank you for having me. I am a lot of different things. I am a writer, a podcaster, slowly becoming a YouTuber, and a trading card maker as well. So I'm a bit of everything, but we're just chipping away, trying to make money and do the things we enjoy all the time over here.
I love that. And I love how you said trying to become a YouTuber because same. Because honestly, like YouTube is one of those platforms that I don't know how people have such a consistent schedule. I don't know how people are recording 40-minute videos and then having it up like literally 3 days later. Because man, I'm still editing, a video from September and my head is about to explode. So I understand that part.
Audio is a lot easier than editing video, I've found.
Yes.
It takes so much longer to edit the videos.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was just me because sometimes people are like, well, you interview, because I have another platform where I do more so interviewing style and I ask people about their dreams. They're like, you're kicking those out like it's nothing. And I'm like, yes, because they're under 3 minutes. I know what I want on my platform for short form. But all of those long form interviews that I did, they're definitely still in the queue for YouTube and just being long form. So yeah, I don't know how people are consistently editing all the time, but kudos to them because man, I'm overwhelmed.
Oh yeah. I found that last year as well. I was like, I need to be better planned in 2025 and try and be ahead of schedule on as much as I can. Like obviously doing film and TV reviews, sometimes you cannot be ahead because you don't get access to the content until the week of. But the things that I can be ahead of, I'm already planning February and March stuff now to try and get it out there.
Oh my goodness. Me too. Funny enough. I have a consultancy agency as well, a creative agency, helping people find the right angle as well. Man, like very similar to you. We have a lot going on, but it keeps us, persistent and it keeps us very motivated. But man, my clients are already like, hey, Valentine's Day is coming up. What can I do for content? Hey, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. What are you thinking of? And I love that you said that because it's the perfect segue into, what we can talk about today as far as like building a brand. And I feel like having that research and that knowledge behind what building a brand is or branding for companies, small businesses, etc., it can really be a lot of work alongside, of course, dictating what you do for your own business. So I would love to jump into that and talk a little bit about that because I think the people think it's easy, Jamie. I think people think they could go out tomorrow, pick 3 colors, come up with a logo, and that's it. Branding is done.
It is absolutely not. I'm still like evolving the branding as well because I've launched a spin-off of my podcast. So that was a whole new wave of how do I brand this so that it's tied into the original podcast, but still its own sort of identity. So that was a whole process last year and updating social media graphics every year. Like I don't want to have, this is the template, this is the thing I've come up with, that's what I do for 20 years. Like no, every year I try and refresh it and be like, okay, so this year, this is what the graphics are going to look like. Here we go.
I love that. And that's how I think too. Like funny enough, I did a rebrand maybe 2 years ago. I had originally started and even this platform, funny enough, shout outs to you as well, because, we were introduced on Threads, but funny enough, before I put that Threads post out, I was about to give up. It was overwhelming for me. This is a platform I've had since I was 21 years old. Started it in high school. I'm not high school, sorry, college. And wanted something to be a view for college students once they get out of college to see this area, ultimately see life as what it could be. And, just me being a young woman in college navigating post-college and what that looks like for me and a huge other demographic. But as I got older, it didn't feel like me anymore. I was just overwhelmed. I was like, hey, I think I should just cut it all together. Because I'm like, I can't keep thinking of ideas. I have these 3 other platforms that I'm putting my all into, right? Because us as entrepreneurs, we're quick. Like, we'll be like, all right, we see this one has some traction. Let me focus on that for a little bit. And, we'll get back to this one in the long run. But after putting that post up on Threads, I was very shocked at how many people jumped back in and was like, hey, let's do it. Let's go forward. Let's have that conversation. I would love to be a co host. And it kind of puts you in a bubble of like, okay, maybe I am doing something right. Or, okay, maybe patience is what it takes to really see a change in my brand or in the development of my brand.
Yeah, I had a similar thing. 2 years ago, I scaled everything back and was at that burnout point. I was like, okay, I need to scale back, just do these few things. But then the creative brain started ticking along and I was like, oh, well, what if I did this little thing? It's only one extra thing. It's fine. It won't take that much of my time. And then I did the trading cards. I was like, okay, I can manage that. And then I did the spin-off podcast. Now I'm doing like 5 different things. I'm like, okay, I was doing one. What happened?
So true. And I love how you said, like, once that creative mind starts ticking, one thing could go to 10 things and 8 things could go to 16 things. And literally why the reason I'm in a bubble I am now with one main platform and then 3 to 4 other subsidiary platforms. So it's just like, I totally understand that. Like, it's just funny enough when that creative mind is flowing, it's like, there's no limit. It's like, what can I not do? Like, and I'm in a bubble right now where I cook as well, but I cook for me. Like, I'm not out here trying to start a catering business. I'm not trying to meal prep. And then you have those people in your crowd who are like, well, you cook really good. We love your cooking. Why don't you do a segment where you're cooking with guests? And I'm like, please, enough. I just told you I have 4 businesses. 2 need my attention because I've been focused on these other 3. But yeah, I totally understand that too. It's like when our mind starts that frenzy, it's like it's no holds bar. And does yours happen to be at 2:00 in the morning too, or is that just me?
Yeah, sometimes. Wake up and go, oh, that was a great idea. And yeah,
Literally, I have to write it down right now.
I've had to tell myself, like, you just need to have things that are for you. Like, not everything has to be work. That's been the biggest thing. Like, because I'm covering movies and TV, which is something I'm passionate about, it's hard to just sit down and watch a show. Like sometimes, like
Yes, of
Squid Game
course.
recently, I was like, oh, we'll do content on Squid Game. And I was like, no, I want to just enjoy Squid Game. I don't want to have to sit there and
And
analyze it
really
the whole
take
time.
it apart. Yeah, exactly. That's funny enough. I have a platform very similar. Mine is called Lay Review, but I do books, TV shows, movies, like just anything people may have a feel for. I had started doing like events, more so like award shows, ceremonies, because those are things you could really nitpick. But I'm a very heavy connoisseur, Jamie. Like, I like to sit down, enjoy my show, enjoy my book. Of course, I like to write notes and give people feedback, like, hey, you should be watching this, you should be listening to this, all of that. But it's like, I'm a connoisseur. And when I'm listening to something, I really need to pick it apart. Like, for example, the Kendrick Lamar album that came out, I believe, in November. I'm
Mhm.
just now having an appreciation for it. And it's almost mid-January. So I feel like us being like those critiquers or those who analyze, it can be a lot more minute as far as detail in comparison to just jumping on a platform and like, hey, this is so good, you have to listen to it yourself or you have to watch it yourself. People really want to know, well, okay, why should I be watching it? Why should I be listening to it? What will it do for me? So I love how you included that. Like, I just want to enjoy it. Let me take a step back.
Mhm.
Let me watch it first. Let me see what happened after season 1. And then I'll give you guys a scope of why you should check into.
Yeah. And it's like you with the cooking. Like, I enjoy cooking too, but I'm not going to try and make content out of cooking because it's just, that's for me. And I'm going to cook, chill out, and then enjoy my meal. That'll do.
Literally, I'm like, thank you for the suggestion, but I'm not going to be Chef Chantel. I'm okay. I like to cook for me. Like just now, right before we jumped on, I made myself a quick little ramen. I made extra steak should somebody else want some. And look, there's ramen packets on the counter. But as far as me chefing it up, putting green onion, tabling, plating. I loved Iron Chef as a kid. I watch Is It Cake like
Mhm.
I'm like it comes on weekly. I'm very big on cooking shows. But now will I go forward and put myself out there, be like, let me audition? No. I'm okay being a cooker for me, for people who are around, people to come enjoy. But as far as like cooking for people and for like broadcast, it's not really my thing. It's
No.
never really been my thing either.
Yeah, it's just I like just cooking what I enjoy. It might not be the most flashy thing, but I enjoy it, and that's all that
Yes,
matters.
me. And I'm like, sometimes, and this is the thing that really bothers me with like chefs on TV and stuff, because I cut my pepper a little differently than you. Are you going to pick it apart? Are you going to
Hmm.
be like Iron Chef and be like, there's a big wad of onion that you didn't cut? Like
That
your
was
onions are three
poor
different
knife
pieces.
technique. I'm like, I don't care. It got the job done, and I didn't lose a
I can
finger.
still eat. Exactly. Literally me, because my knife skills are subpar. When I tell you, like, I'm just going to cut and then I'm going to cut that in half and then half and half. I could care less if there's one long pepper and then there's three short peppers. It's going to be eaten. It's going to be cooked the same temperature. Instead of eating it in three pieces, you have to eat it in one long one. Still going to taste the same.
Yep.
It's not going to affect the cooking. So why are we, nitpicking? So that's exactly why I wouldn't be big on building a brand for cooking. I'm okay. Thank you. And then there's so many platforms. Why do I have to make another one?
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's already
I
hard
mean,
enough work to do the two or three that I'm doing.
no, literally. And then you have the people cooking with the sound effect in the background with the knife chopping skills and, the low lights and literally making like bread from scratch. And you're going to be totally upset when you see me pull a Walmart roll out of a bag and be like, here you go. Like,
Hmm.
this is the bread I use. And I think it's great that people are out there, expanding their creativity. And even a young woman who was making a mukbang out of paper, I think that's out of this world, like that's something new and noteworthy, not no one's doing it. She's the first person I've seen, but that's the thing about social. Find something, or even within branding, find something that you're passionate about. Find something that you want to get up every day and do, or have time to do, or want to make time to do. And you do it. Don't do anything because someone's like, hey, you should do this. I think your personality is great for this. Because in the long run, you may be there 5 years into something that people said you should do. And you're like, well, actually, I started in communication, but I wanted to do law. Or,
Yep.
I started in, law, and I really just want to go forward and be an influencer for the rest of my life. I want to do get ready with me's and things like that. And it's just like, know your passion first and then go from there. So I agree with that entirely.
And with like creative endeavors and anything sort of business related, if you're not passionate about it, it's going to come through. And then the people that are either customers or the people that are watching are going to see that you're not passionate about it. So why should they be passionate about following you and keeping up to date with what you're putting out? So
I
that's
love the way you
been
said
a big
that.
thing for me. It's just make sure you're passionate so that it comes through to everybody else.
I love the way you said that too. And that's very important. And I think a lot of people miss that scope, right? They see certain things on social media. And I was victim to this as well. I will be totally transparent. You see it on social media and you're like, oh, I could do that. I can go forward and, go to restaurants and eat and rate them and, have this feedback on my page or collab with the company. And it's like, I did it. But when it came to the real logistics and the semantics of it, it's like, yeah, you're posting on the behalf of this company, but if it's something you're passionate about and it's something that you want to do every day, it's not going to be like, okay, I need recognition from this company. I need a repost from this company. It's just going to be like, hey, I went to this dope restaurant. I thought people should learn more about it. I posted it on my social and I'm just passionate about being an eater. I love to eat.
Mhm.
I love pasta. So I posted this restaurant. But now it's become, okay, I'm going to this restaurant because I see influencers going to this restaurant. I'm upset because I have to pay $20 for a roll, even though the influencer didn't include that pricing was free because it's an ad. So I'm already upset. I paid $30 for something minute. But then on top of that, I have to review it. And then a lot of these creators, I realize they do not like the brands. They don't like the companies. They'll go to this place, they'll eat, and then they'll go forward and be like, okay, the food sucked. Or I wasn't really a fan of this, but I have to put on the facade that I enjoyed it because I want this brand deal. And
Mhm.
I feel like once, that authenticity started coming back onto social media, a lot more people realize what they were passionate about, because it's like, I can't just play anymore. If I'm not authentic, like you said, very similarly, and I'm not giving off that this is something I like to do, or this is something I'm doing just because I like to do it out of the goodness of my heart, then how am I supposed to relay that to my audience? And I realized that with a lot of these influencers, they start off this track of being open-ended and honest, and then 2 months, 2 years down the line, they're in their NYC apartment, windows to the world, just giving off the image of like, hey, I've never told you that I had a mustache, or I never told you that I hate Shake Shack, or, just little things that now they have brand partnerships with that they have to, of course, look good for the cameras for. So I agree with that entirely.
Yeah, like with the film and TV reviews and stuff that I do, we always try to find the positives in it and like highlight that. But if a movie sucks, I'm going to tell you that the movie sucks. And
Right.
okay, like if I tell you everything is great, what's the point of that? If I say everything is great, then nothing is great. So you have to have that range of things. And yeah, if I get a repost from one of the film studios or the film social media account, cool, that's a bonus. That's not what I'm doing it for. That's just
Right.
the cherry on top.
And I agree with that, because I realized, like, once I really started just enjoying the reviews for what it was, and not, of course I always tag because I want people to have the knowledge of who's in this film and where the film can be found and things like that. But it wasn't until I had commented on the movie, I believe it's called The Union, and it stars Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. And I had commented about Mike Coulter, of course, our Luke Cage king, always playing something so grimy or playing a bad guy. And I'm like, I'm tired of defending you, Mike. Like, you're my Luke Cage, and now you're saving Harlem, and now you're just being a menace in every other movie. And literally, he commented back, like the comment pinned it to his post, was dying laughing. And I just thought, like, at that moment, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, I have to keep doing it. It was more so, wow, I love the fact to see that he's engaged, that he understands, like, people, and that's him being in tune with his own film as well. Like, wow, I knew people would look at me and be like, hey, we loved you in Luke Cage, or, why do you keep playing this huge bad guy? Like, what's up? Like, are you really a villain? Like, so I just thought that was great too. And I love the way that you went forward and expressed that too, because it's like, if I'm looking for a shout out or a pat on the back every time I do a review, who is it really for? Or who am I really looking to pull into watching the movie as well? And then also with that knowledge you said as well, like just going forward and being like, oh, I love this movie. I love this movie. I love this movie. Ultimately, somebody who is a consumer is going to be like, all right, you love everything. Like you said, like, give me real feedback, because I hated, for lack of a better term, like I hated Wicked, or I hated Sonic 3, or, I really wasn't a big fan of Moana 2. It was the same story. Like, that's the ratings I want to hear as a consumer, because if I hear every time like, oh, this movie was great, this movie was, 10 out of 10, it's like I can go on IMDb for that. I can go on Rotten Tomatoes, or, a biased critic, and say like, hey, like, what movie should I be watching right now? And, it's movies that I've watched that I was like, okay, like, no, like, I shouldn't even listen to this critic. And then there's other shows where I just watch on my own and I'm like, wow, this is a top tier show. Like, I remember Vince Staples had a show come out on Netflix, and everybody at the time was like, oh, this show is so funny, but I don't know, something's missing. And then other people were like, we need more than 10 episodes. Or other people were like, we need less than 10 episodes. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to watch it myself. And I watched the show and I cracked up every episode, Jamie. I was like, oh my gosh, this show is absolutely rhetorical, like absolutely like rhetorical in the sense of like, is this funny? Because absolutely it's hilarious. But more importantly, seeing someone in a light who is a rapper, entertainer, now being shifted into that actor or that Hollywood role, which is rare, right? Yeah. I mean, we see it all the time in movies, but TV, like, I thought that would be amazing. And it was a really good show. Like, I can't wait for it to come back. But yeah, I totally agree with that entirely.
Yeah, and that was, like you mentioned, Wicked. That was the fun part about our episode on that. I thought it was fun. I didn't love it, but my co-host loved it, so it made for a really cool episode with that dynamic of, this is why I liked it, this is why I didn't like it, and we came to sort of a more well-rounded conclusion for the film, not just, oh, this one person went in, they loved it, so it was awesome. It's like,
Right. And I
there
love
were
that.
issues to people that aren't massive Wicked fans. So
I don't know if you've seen what's her name, Nikki Glaser. She hosted the Golden Globes, and she actually did a joke on it, like, "Hey, I heard about Wicked, but I this is my first time hearing about it because in high school I had friends, and I died laughing because I'm like, that is such a theater kid joke. Like I grew up, I was a theater kid, so I already knew the joke was hilarious, and Wicked was like this huge thing coming up. Like I remember we in school it was either we are going to see I forgot the other one. I think it was called Memphis. That was on Broadway. It was more of like a transition into New York type of musical, or it was Wicked. And everybody was like, "We're going to see Memphis." And I'm like, nobody wants to see Wicked? Like because I'm a big Wizard of Oz fan. My favorite Wizard of Oz though is The Wiz because I mean, iconic. Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, like please. Like it doesn't even matter. Like Michael Jackson. But more importantly, I was really excited to see what theater gave on The Wiz because, of course, we've seen the movie. We've seen, of course, the musical theater aspect of the movie. But I hadn't seen it in theater. I mean, and on theater, excuse me, not in theater, on theater. And when we finally went to see Memphis, I thought it was great. I thought it was an amazing show. But I really felt like I missed out on Wicked. But now seeing that movies are very big on bringing that musical theater element into the movie, it's great for me. I mean, I saw The Color Purple. Visually, that movie was amazing. Like, I mean, just keeping it to the antebellum South and you having, actual cotton and you see what an actual plantation looks like and what the club scene looked like back in the day during those times. And it's just like, wow, in comparison to the movie that came out with Whoopi Goldberg and Cecily Tyson, it's like, it's
night and
totally
day
different.
difference.
Totally. Even down to like the cinematography. And I'm a very big film buff, especially when it comes to certain shots, cinematography. So I look at scenes totally different. Like, and that's why I love the fact that I'm talking to another cinephile who loves movies, and it's not just like, all right, yep, my favorite person's in it. Will Smith is in Bad Boys again. Like Bad Boys, I love the second movie, but that fourth one, I was just like, it's
great.
redundant. Yes, I was just like, please, you guys are 50 plus. You don't have to fool me. I know these are not you doing the stunts. Like Will Smith, I love that you think you're young and still got the Mike Lowry from 2002, but my love, it hasn't been the same since, then.
Yeah.
But I love
think
that they try to keep the story.
That's like the big issue with
Yes.
film at the moment. They're seem to be devoid of fresh ideas. So it's constantly just going back to old things, rebooting.
And I'm tired of it. We don't need reboots.
20-year-old sequels.
Yes. Literally, that's how I felt about even, and because, and don't judge me, somebody's going to be like, how have you not listened to this, Tizzy? And like, oh my goodness. But Axel F on Netflix, Beverly Hills Cop, I was so confused. One, like how he just came up with his daughter 20 years later. Like we were never introduced to this daughter. We were never even introduced to a girlfriend. So I'm just like, wow, like how did we, very similar to Coming to America as well, right? Because, and no shade to Eddie Murphy. I'm a big Eddie Murphy buff. He's an Aries just like me. So we stand, we love that. But how are we just hopping into the next movie with no backstory or saying, oh, let's tell a backstory in the second movie? No. Yep. Like Coming to America, oh, Leslie Jones is the mom. I'm like, I love that we're trying to put people of color in movies. I love that we're trying to make it predominantly people of color. But this storyline was so unnecessary. Like we did not need a out of wedlock child for Eddie Murphy because he needs an heir to the kingdom and then had 3 daughters. I'm like, okay. But back to Axel F, like I just feel like very similar to what you said, the redundancy in movies. Like it's just like we need new writers in Hollywood. We need young, fresh ideas. I mean, there's so many things. Like I don't know if you remember this platform, but do you remember Wattpad back in the day where people could just write stories? It was this really big app.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. I mean, the fan fiction was out of this world. Like there used to be books about dating Chris Brown and living a life with him. I mean, of course, it's rudimentary and super silly, but the impact that it had on me as a teenager and other teenage young women, teenage young men, it really brought a lot of like, writers and authors out the woodwork. Of course, with some work and some actual ideas, it could have shaped into something great. But unfortunately, it was all fan fiction about dating Diggy Simmons or dating Luke Hemsworth for, Jacob Elordi and what that looks like. But I definitely think it was a great platform to start young writers who are interested in what that looks like.
Yeah, like I think last year we did get some fresh, really awesome films and stories.
We did.
There also were a lot of sequels or reboots, and yeah, the really big budget stuff tends to be it's banking on a name. So like even this year we've got Happy Gilmore 2 coming.
Happy Gilmore 2. We have Scary Movie 5 coming. We have all of these.
Scream 7 or 8 or something.
Scream 92. I'm like, 11. How does Sidney Campbell keep getting out of this situation? Like, girl, just let him do what he has to do, because I cannot watch another Scream. And it's just you watching him continuously on each generation. Like, it's not even, all right, he's done. That's it. It's just like, oh, I had a daughter 20 years now. And he's going after my daughter and her friends. And I'm just like, Sidney, I don't know at this point, love. Like, I don't know what you got to do to him, but it's not working out. And I agree with that. Even the Moana live action, why do we need that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Why do we need that?
And then it's coming out next year.
The only live action that I can say was done very well, honestly, and it's like rare that I say like a live action was done well, but I really like the cinematography, just the cinematography, not really the script, of Mulan. I really like the live action of Mulan that Disney did, because it was very culturally relevant. It wasn't just like, all right, we're going to throw something together. We're going to have a whitewash Mulan or a whitewash Han, so I was just like, okay, perfect. But yeah, I want Disney to stop with the live actions. I did not like The Little Mermaid too much. And it wasn't like anything with the acting or anything. I thought it was great. I just thought it was rushed, the plot. Like, it was, of course it was evident to the original, but I just felt like with a live action, you could have did so much more. Like, she can speak, like she can have feelings. We can see her feelings. Like, she's a human in this movie instead of an animation. Make her more lively, So I was a little upset about that.
Yeah,
I didn't really like the Lion King live action.
Live action.
Live action.
Like, I just feel like if you're going to do that, it doesn't have to be beat for beat the exact movie. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would think a live action would be a little different. Like, okay, obviously the same mainstay of the plot. All right, Simba has to learn how to grow up and be coming of age. And, he lost his father, and his uncle is, like a butthole and just wants to take over the kingdom. Of course, that's literally every story. I mean, like, it's written before time. Shakespeare, literally, that's what Othello is about. Like, I mean, just having this hate or this upsetness of, your sister or your brother. And then, but it's a story we've heard before time. I would love to see a new spin on Macbeth. I would love to see a new spin on the short story by, I forgot his name. He has 3 names, but it's basically the story, The Telltale Heart. I forgot who wrote that, but that short story. Edgar Allan Poe. I was like, 3 names. But I would love a remix on a movie like that. And even reading the short story when I was young, I'm like, oh my goodness, the heart is speaking to him. It's the guilt is eating him. I would love to see a movie like that, even if it's like a very heavy drama, or even like a dramedy, or something of that nature, like some comedy elements of it. And it just talks about, it could even be robbing a bank and the guilt is eating you alive, or ABCD, like, or even a remake on Reservoir Dogs. Super relevant. Plot is a mainstay. I think that would be great. But nobody wants to take a plot for inspiration and use it. They will just want to take the plot and be like, all right, this is a movie we can recreate. We're gonna cast Zendaya in it.
Chuck in this, and there we go.
And we're gonna cast Zendaya in it. We are. We're gonna cast the top 3 film
Yep.
stars: Zendaya,
And
Jennifer Lawrence. You know,
Tom Holland. Way
yes,
to go.
Tom Holland. Yes, we're gonna cast Joey King because she's in everything too. But she's an amazing actress. I loved her. I've loved her since The Act. I think she did very well in that role. With I forgot her name. I think Patricia Arquette, if that's her. Yes, Patricia Arquette. I
Mhm.
thought it was a very good film. My only issue with it was, of course, glamorizing death and things like that. But I've realized that's been a very big thing over the past couple of years. Like just getting these TV shows or these real live stories and just being like, romanticize them. You
Mhm.
know, Ted Bundy, he was a serial killer, but
But he was hot.
show but
It's okay.
cast him as Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Take off his shirt, you know, do scenes where, it's suggestive. And I'm just like, Zac Efron, at one point, I'm like, what we're not going to talk about is villain humanizing Ted Bundy as Zac Efron. Like,
Mhm.
absolutely not. I'm so sorry to you. But that's what I've realized has been a very heavy trend in not social media, excuse me, in movies and in like certain storytelling. Like, I'm just like, please, I'm so tired of the damsel in distress role. Like, it's tiring. It's tiring. Can we have a
Yep.
story about a woman who's like, and it don't even have to be about, like F men. It really doesn't. It could be a man could be her sidekick or a man could be her equal. But I'm so tired of like, come save this woman. And I feel like Stephanie Meyer's to blame for that. I blame Twilight. I blame 50 Shades of Grey.
Yep.
I blame all of these films where it seems like women need to be saved. We don't need to be saved. We actually want to be the saver. Get
Yep.
me Demi Moore from Charlie's Angel Full Throttle with the 2 Desert Eagles playing a superhero. I would love that. You know what I mean? Like, where are we at? It's just like,
I think
you know,
that's like where that film Promising Young Woman really stood out, because it was this strong woman going after the people that were doing horrible things to her. I was like, this is so out there and
yes.
different that it stands out and is really exciting to watch.
Yes, listen, I am a big Charlie's Angels fan. Like me growing up, Jamie, I thought I was going to get recruited. The secret agency was like, you watch Charlie's Angels 1,000 times. It literally went box office gold in your house. Come join us, look good, fight crime, do flips, be unscathed, like just be unbothered. And then, life, I grew up, I became 28 instead of 7 and realized the real dexterity it takes to be a spy or a secret agent. But just that image, I mean, till this day, Lucy Liu is that icon. Cameron Diaz is that icon. Drew Barrymore, um, Demi Moore. I mean, Demi Moore is an icon. I mean, she's almost 70 and she looks not a day over 45. I mean, it's just
Yeah, great
psychotic.
resurgence for her over the last
Yes.
6 months.
Whoever did the current facelift did an amazing job. But
Even just
but
like
just
roles wise, like Substance, she was awesome in. She's really good in
yes.
Landman as well recently.
I love G.I. Jane too. I know it's a throwback, but honestly, very good film. I just think Demi Moore is one of those people who like are Hollywood's golden age that no matter what they do, like they will always be loved and respected. Like very similar to like Denzel, very similar to Glenn Close. Like I am obsessed with Glenn Close. She can do no wrong in my eyes. Like I mean, the iconic Cruella de Vil. Well, that was a good live action too. The one with
Mhm.
Emma Stone. I really like Cruella. I thought that was very good. Disney had a little run with the live actions. I'll say like 2018 to 2020. It was some good live actions, but after that, they just got lazy. And I'm just like, all right, we're just gonna reshop everything. I'm waiting for a remake on A Bug's Life. I'm waiting for a
Oh
remake
God,
on a live action of The Emperor's New Groove.
don't give them ideas.
Please, I'm really trying not to, but I'm like, listen, if you're gonna remake a classic, The Emperor's New Groove would be really good live action. I mean, that's actually one of the ones you could do. A king being threatened by a subservient who wants to take over his throne. Who would play Eartha Kitt? That's a good one. As far as Yzma, but man, I don't know who would play that person. So we would get there. It's really no one right now. Maybe like Lynn Whitfield. I don't know. And I only say that because like it's sticking true to like the Eartha Kitt character, but truthfully, I don't really see anybody who would be able to play Yzma, like right now at least. I don't think they've hit the age yet.
Yep.
Yeah, but definitely. So can we talk a little bit? I know we had that too because we're coming up on our halfway point, but I would love to talk more about those belt testing in the background and
Mhm.
a little bit about wrestling trading and what that looks like as far as like cards, anything else. I'm honestly I'm like a doe in headlights when it comes to the knowledge of sports and trading and things like that. But I would love to learn more. So definitely take the floor and let me know.
So I have been a long-time wrestling fan since I first discovered it when I was 7 or 8 or something, if might have even been earlier than that. But I really got into Australian wrestling early 2000s, and I've been over to the States, and I went to an event over there in LA, and there was some fan-made trading cards. I was like, oh wait, nobody does that in Australia. Like, there's no sort of trading card things. The only sort of merch we ever really got here in Australia from wrestlers was a T-shirt. It's like, okay, I can only have so many T-shirts in my house. We need to have different types of merchandise, and like
Right.
people have started doing like friendship bracelets and like key rings and hats and things. I'm like, okay, cool, but trading cards. Let's do trading cards. There was one wrestler that did them for himself here in Australia, but when you do them on such a small scale like that, the price is incredibly high. So I looked at it and went, what if I tried to incorporate wrestlers from all over the country, and then we can do bigger print runs with more cards in each run so that then the price for each one comes down. So I reached out to a few of the wrestlers that I sort of become friendly with over the years, and they were all like, yes, sweet, we're in. Let us know what you need. Contacted the photographers. They were the same. Cool. Let us know what you need. We'll do it. And then it was just a matter of, okay, now I've got to work out how to do this and how to make it so that it's not going to lose me a crazy amount of money. And I worked out how to do it and do it profitably. And yeah, so we started making cards. We're going into our 3rd year now. So 2 years ago, did our first lot. And
Congratulations.
yeah, the first lot sold out within 6 weeks, and I had planned
Wow.
for it to take all year. So I had to do a second run in that first year, and then the following year, like last year for the second set, I was like, okay, I need to plan the whole year out in advance. So we did that, changed out how we sort of
That's
release
amazing.
the cards.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, and it's just been growing and growing, and design up a card, make them up, put them into packets, and then all the wrestlers get their own cards. All of the photographers get a little payment from the use of their photos, and yeah, the fan seems to really enjoy it. Like, we've had a few people buy every single set, and they've got a good majority of the cards signed at live shows. So it's been a great way to introduce people to new wrestlers that they may not have otherwise gone out of their way to go and see. Like, they've gone, oh, I have that person on a trading card, and they're on this show that I hadn't really even considered going to, but because they're on it, I'm going to go to that show. And then they meet that wrestler, they become a fan of that wrestler, and then they see 2 or 3 others on the show, and they become a fan of them as well.
And I have to ask, that's amazing. I have to ask, what are like the top 3 trading cards that are like that you've seen just come and go? Like as fast as it's coming, it's going because it's a very, well known.
In terms of the cards I've made, Robbie Eagles was a massive one. He's like probably the top Australian wrestler that's sort of still independent at the moment because he wrestles for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So he's on a global platform, but still
That's
based
amazing.
in Australia.
Okay.
And last year we had a girl who was previously known as Delta. She's now known as Zarya in WWE. So as soon as
Yes,
it
of
was announced
course.
that she got signed, those cards went out the window really quickly.
Oh my goodness. I could only imagine.
So yeah,
Especially with everything like the WWE is doing right now, especially like with the transition, the sale, the documentary on Netflix.
mhm.
It's that's amazing. I love that was like very like successful for you because I know like very similar to what I told you before we started, my friend being obsessed with wrestling. I know it's a very big industry and it's very heavily fan based, like, which I love. Wrestling, I was a big fan growing up too. I used to love Trish Stratus. Like, I thought I could be her.
Mhm.
I grew up during the time, of course, John Cena, Trish Stratus, Lita, um, what's his name, Edge. Very big wrestling fan. But of course, as you get older, you start to shift a little bit more, and then you're like, oh, wrestling's not real, and quote unquote. But I love that it's, instead of it going extinct, or instead of it being this industry that, God forbid, like, started losing people, it grew. And I love that they're starting to do a lot more marketing centric towards celebrities who are obsessed, or celebrities who, are very, very well known in the wrestling area. Like, I mean, just the other day, I believe they had Chris Hemsworth at, the live event for WWE on Netflix. They also had like artists like Travis Scott. I believe
Mhm.
Danielle Fishburne was there from Girl Meets World. So there
Macaulay
were a
Culkin.
few. Macaulay. I mean, the crowd went crazy for Macaulay. I mean, we love Macaulay, Mr. McAllister. But I just thought that was amazing, and it's great because you can relate it to so many things. Like, I mean, Macaulay's demographic. You got the '80s, '90s babies who were literally grew up with wrestling. A lot of the wrestlers who first came out the same time as Macaulay. I mean, you had like Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik, all of these, Andre the Giant, may he rest in peace, but a few of these people who had roots from there. And then you have people in my generation like Travis Scott, Tiffany Haddish, things like that. And their wrestlers were like John Cena, The Rock, Kofi Kingston, Booker T. So, and then now, of course, the new ages is like the Rock's nephews who wrestle the twins. I think they're called the I forgot their names. It's something with a
Uh,
O.
yeah, there's Jacob Fatu
Oh, the Fatu
and
brothers. You're right. I'm like, oh, yes,
can't
but
remember the other one.
yeah, but the twins. They also have this girl who has like 4 belts, which is amazing to me because that means they definitely shifted towards women just having this one event. Now that we're in this area where we're wrestling as much as the men, I think that's amazing too. Definitely shifted from what my generation knew. I mean, there was
Mm.
like sex in the ring and bras and panties matches.
Yeah, the
But
women
now
are much more respected now, thankfully.
yes, and they're actually fighting. Like, I love to see it. Like, it's not just, oh, let me slap you on, your chest area, or kiss you on your cheek and pretend that I love you before I beat you up. It's like, no, girl, you was talking crap backstage. Let's get it in. I forgot. One of the wrestlers who's married to the Fatu brother actually got into a fight with some other girl, and at one point I was like, ooh, this looks a little too real. They're pulling hair. They're getting it on. So I just love that the storyline, of course, shifted from fake, which felt real, to real that we know is fake.
Yep.
So I'm thankful for that because Vince McMahon back in the day, especially with that scene, I was watching in the documentary, but the scene where he pretended to blow up in a limousine and then
Mhm.
literally like 3 hours later, Chris Benoit passed away. And I'm just like, this is why we have trust issues as '80s and '90s children.
Yep. Yeah, I
There's no
remember
way they
watching
was
that
doing this
and
on
being like,
Monday.
it was filmed so well that watching it, I was like, wait, did that just happen? I was like, how did
Me,
they do that?
me, literally started crying, Jamie. I looked at my mom. I'm like, is that it? Is WWE over? Their CEO just got into a limo and boom, kabam. Like, what's going on? And she just looks at me, of course, as an adult would. And she's just like, wait till next Monday. Well, we'll see. It wasn't even till next Monday, Jamie. The next day, they came out with the broadcast like, hey, we know Raw is scheduled for Monday, but we have this announcement. And I'm just like, as a kid, you're totally devastated because you're like, no wrestling tonight. But at the same time, you're like, whoa, one of my favorite wrestlers just passed away. And of course, as a kid, it's too much for you to understand what happened. Very
Mhm.
similar to like what happened with Eddie Guerrero, what happened with Umaga, like Umaga passing away. Man, like that was just so left field. And like at the time where he was growing too, like I remember Umaga was like hated and then beat John Cena and everybody's like, we love Umaga, like we're obsessed. And then he passed away, very similar to Eddie Guerrero. And it was just like that year we were just losing everybody. And then I remember Rey Mysterio lost his son. Like it was just so many things like that was just going on that was horrible. And Honestly, I'm happy the WWE recovered because, man, I definitely didn't think it would.
Yeah, yeah. There was a period there where it's like, oh, they're in big trouble here, but they've AEW came along and gave them some competition, and then I think they kind of went, oh, hang on, we can't just
Hold on. Yeah.
coast along doing the same old stuff over and over again. So that it was good. It's good that there's competition and more places for guys and girls to go and work now. So it's great to see.
I love it too. And I love that it's opening a lot of doors within the marketing and social media areas as well. I mean, like just seeing the WWE, that was like this platform that was very heavily stigmatized in syndication, now be very heavy via like, it was heavy in publication too. I remember they had a magazine, they had like a mailing list, things like that. But to now be on the influencer side of marketing, to now go forward and be on social media doing like, and on YouTube as well, doing little skits, things like that. And even on streaming services, like not saying I never thought I'd see the day. I know eventually, organized sports and events and things like that would be on streaming, but never did I think WWE, especially with the big, like WWE when it first started was barely touching a multi-million-dollar company. It wasn't until Vince McMahon came in and took over for his father and then of course later Shane and Stephanie, but until he took over, it was $1 million business that was optional. People would choose to go forward and watch it. But then it became something that's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's just like, wow. Like, even though he's a creeper, Vince McMahon should definitely be teaching classes on, very similar to what we were talking about, how to build a brand, because he's the best example of how WWE became this huge powerhouse. I mean, I did not see it coming. Till this day, I did not think WWE would be this thing that was still being watched. You know, so it's a SmackDown girly. You had options. It was Raw, SmackDown. I got the other one, but I think AEW came on Wednesdays, and then you had TNT as well, I believe, where it was more, I guess, more centric on storyline and like flashy costumes. I really like AEW. It was more storyline based than WWE was, but it was also like, all right, we know this kind of has some realty to it, like a little bit, like not much, but a lot more real than WWE. And I feel like because at the time AEW was growing, it needed to, of course, assimilate into a storyline because, it was growing. Many people didn't know what it was, but WWE came back in and was like, yeah, you had us in the first half, not gonna lie, but
Yep.
we'll take it from here.
Yeah, like it's been good to see that competition between the two companies, and yet they did for a little bit there go into, oh, we're both doing the same type of stuff, but they're now sort of diverging back, and I think AEW is going more sport, real
Yes.
focus, and then the WWE's really heavy on the sort of the storylines and the promos and the cinema, as they like to
Right.
say.
As they like to say, exactly.
So I think it's good to see that there are differences, so people can find, like with that sort of branding thing, you can find something that you connect with. It doesn't, not every brand has to be the same.
Right.
Every brand shouldn't be
Exactly.
the same. They should be different.
I agree with that. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, as much as we see the industry of fast food and we see, all right, Burger King, Wendy's, Popeyes, McDonald's, yes, they all have similar entities as far as like fast food, getting it quick, under $20, etc. But they all have a different niche that helped them be successful. Like McDonald's, world's best fries, over a billion served, that's their category. Then Burger King, this is where the king eats. You have your Whopper. As much as people want to be upset that is similar, it's very different. And the demographic you attract amongst these platforms are always going to be different. I mean, McDonald's, kids love McDonald's. Burger King is more so for the person who, well, like when I was growing up, my dad had, he worked right across from the World Trade Center, and there was a Burger King there. So a lot of the Wall Street bros, a lot of the people who wanted a quick bite, that was their demographic. Come eat where the king eats, or where, upscale or whatever have you, whatever they were painting at the time, come eat here. And then, of course, Wendy's was fresh, never frozen. If you want something where you don't have to, basically barter to get fresh food, come to Wendy's, and we have other options. It's not just burgers and fries. We have chili, we have this. So I love how you basically said, like, hey, we're not supposed to be different. We may be similar, not the same, but you have to show a little bit of a difference to have that audience that is attracted to you come and basically appeal to the audience, excuse me. But there are a lot of people who go forward and, just look at one thing and they're like, okay, maybe I can do it. Or I don't think I could do it because there's so many out there. And it's just like, not when fast food is flourishing, not when there's a Chick-fil-A, a Popeyes, a KFC, a Church's, a Jollibee's. So I just think it's great that, platforms like AEW and WWE are, even though very different, very similar, and they have their demographic and they're flourishing, because I feel like that's what the business industry is all about: finding your niche and just going forward and being successful in it, and realizing like, okay, I may be similar to someone, but I'm not the same. I have a difference here, and this difference can be solidified in the market. So totally, I definitely agree with that.
And that's like kind of what I've done with my branding as well, because like there are numerous amounts of movie and TV review podcasts and shows and things and websites and things like that. Like, I don't look at it and go, I'm going to be a mini IGN or a mini like Variety. Like, I am
right, exactly
my own thing. A lot of my inspirations don't actually come from movie and TV review websites and things like that. A lot of my inspirations are coming from sort of podcasters and sports and things like that. Like, even wrestling, like I'm looking at like wrestling podcasts and wrestling review websites and things like that, and then bringing that to the movie and TV world. And like my graphics are all sort of looking at sports, social media accounts and things like that, and like taking elements from those graphics and bringing them into movie graphics. So it's like magazines, but not. So it's all different. So that way I'm standing out. I'm not just, like I said, a mini IGN.
Right. I'm the same exact way. I feel like, yes, it's great going forward and having that area where you're different. I'm very similar. I don't go to, right, like you said, Variety or Screen Geek or Rotten Tomatoes to dictate what I'm going to critique or dictate what I'm going to watch. No, I like to look at it like very similar to you, in an unfiltered look. I like to take what I see in not only the media, but what I see on social media and society, as far as like, the communication within it, and apply that to what I think people would want to watch. Like, as much as I would love to review certain things like the Golden Globes or review the Academies, that's not ultimately what my audience wants to see. Do they want to see what Zendaya was wearing? Absolutely. Do they want to see who, what category she won in? Absolutely. But as far as like really breaking it down, talking about the movies that were nominated, discussing why this movie is such, an icon to why it needed to be awarded, I talk about why I feel like you should watch this movie. And a lot of the times, very similar to like a lot of critics, I'm not just going to shout out something that's hot and new. That's my difference. Like, the Barbie movie, still haven't seen. And it's not like I didn't want to see it. It's just like, I don't like watching or critiquing something that many people have done already. There's so many movies, and not only just in life, but so many movies coming out this year, next year, moving forward, that people are more so interested in, that align with what I want to talk about. So I try to do stuff that I know I would watch, like transparently, not just say, oh, I'm gonna watch it because everybody else is watching it. And I learned that with Umbrella Academy. I was very upset with the last season. I was just like, wow, like,
yeah,
I was, yes. I was like, I was pressured to watch. And by the fourth episode, I was so disconnected and like just so disassociated that I was just like, man, like, how can you let a show that started off so good the first 3 seasons just plummet into whatever it plummeted into? But yeah, I felt like certain things that people are like, hey, watch, new release last season, I was pressured into watching. And I was just like, I don't want to critique things I'm pressured into watching, or things that I know people will ruin 2 days into, because it's bingeable TV. Nobody's going to say, oh,
Mhm.
let me wait and have respect enough to not tell what happened. Hence why Power was a show that when it ended, I was very happy, because I'm like, man, you guys ruin it every week. Like, you guys should be critics. But yeah, like, I'm very big on making sure it's something that I know I would enjoy and that my audience would enjoy. Because if you're just making a review for something nobody's going to watch, or something you watch and you were like, I hated it, then and I learned that too with the French movie. I always say it in French, Pour la Seine, In Too Deep, or In the River, the movie about the sharks that were like, Netflix had, it was right before the Olympics too that they played it. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh man. Yes. I
Yeah, I
forgot the
can't remember
name
what
of
it's
it. I
called,
think
but
it was called
it
Deep or
was like the
something. I
sharks
forgot.
in Paris. It's like, what?
Yes, yes.
It was
First of
silly. It was
all,
enjoyable. But yeah, it wasn't a great
Jamie,
movie.
was it
It was
just
a
me who
Netflix
thought it was
movie.
silly? Yes.
Yeah, no.
It was the silliest movie I've ever seen. And it was silly because, one, you found, first of all, the first scene where she like free dive 400 feet back up to the surface. I'm like, stop, because that's not possible. Like,
That shark is gonna
please.
eat you.
Yes, that was one. Then two, what really shocked me was that you're telling me these sharks are just asexual and reproducing two months out the womb? Like, no. So I was already in the movie like 30 minutes in, like, yeah, this is going to get the review of a lifetime for me, because I just wasted an hour and 20 minutes. And then the thing that really pissed me off, Jamie, at the end of the movie, there was no land. So very
Mhm.
much under the sin, like, very much the sharks
Yep.
are taking over, and it pissed me off.
Oh,
And then they're like, oh, we're going to have a second one. No, we don't need a second movie, Netflix. We need a movie that makes sense and is realistic. Like, all
yeah.
these researchers, and nobody brought
Some of
them
these
to
Netflix
Paris
movies aren't. Some of these Netflix movies are not good. Not good at all.
at all. Like, it's just like, here's $20 million, make it shake. And I'm just like, there was a run where they were giving Kevin Hart $20 million a movie, and I was just like, please stop casting Kevin Hart. Like, it's 2023, 2024. No offense to this man, but he's just not funny anymore. Like, when you get rich and your circumstance doesn't get to relate to other people's circumstance, and I hate to say it like this, but I'm gonna be super blunt. When you're a bourgeoisie and you can't relate to the proletariat, your jokes just kind of look like privilege.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yep.
you went from talking to me about driving in a 2-door 4x4 to now talking about when I drove my Rolls Royce Cullinan, how can I relate, Kevin Hart? I don't have a Cullinan.
Yeah.
I don't even have a Rolls Royce emblem, like a keychain. So, but I'm very big in the same way, Jamie. Like, it has to make sense on what I'm reviewing. It can't just be like, let me review it because it's out and everybody's reviewing it. Like Monkey Man, for example, wonderful movie, great cinematography, amazing lighting, 10 out of 10. Thought it was an amazing, and I didn't even want to watch it at first. I'm just like, no, thank you. But it pleasantly surprised me. And then it was Dev Patel, our guy from I forgot the name of the movie, but Jai Ho, Slumdog Millionaire.
Slumdog. Yep.
Basically, yeah, how he has just progressed, and now he's this handsome dude playing a vigilante. I called him my little Indian John Wick,
Mm-hmm.
because that's exactly what it was in the movie. And I thought it was a great film, from the cinematography to the plot. Like, I mean, 10 out of 10, but a lot of people haven't watched the movie. Like, I was sitting around like, hey, have you seen Monkey Man? They're like, what's that about? And I'm just like, man, you're missing out on great movies. But I bet you went to see Inside Out too. I bet you watched a
Yep.
movie that had $2 billion in the box office because it's the name.
Yeah.
But you're
They
not
spend
watching real
$1 billion
good
on
cinema.
marketing.
Literally. And no shade to Inside Out. I thought the first one was great. I think a movie, it was an original storyline, feelings and how they operate, amazing. I didn't like the second one. I only saw about 30 minutes of it, and I was like, all right, not only is it like the first one, because sadness was annoying in the first one, but now you have anxiety annoying in the second one. But I thought it brought too many adult ideals to children.
Yep.
Especially for it to be a PG movie. Like, PG-13 would be great about talking about how she had developed a crush, how she also developed a crush on a girl. Like, these are conversations you want to have with your children, but not your children who's under 13, or your child who is 8 years old and just is looking at the colors and think, wow, joy is yellow and sadness is blue. Like those were very complex. And Disney always does that every second movie. They really bring complex ideals to the second movie, like Pocahontas. Like,
yeah, they make the first one
not
really accessible, and then the next one is just like a little bit too detailed and intense.
this
Kids don't grow up that fast.
at all. Like the second Pocahontas I love because it was like, oh, she's in a whole new world, it's different. But the fact that they really tried to, because I rewatched it the other day, I was like, they literally tried to sell us a throuple as children. Like she was had to choose between two men. And then not only that, colonialism. So like it's like these themes are too advanced for children. Like even Hercules, me and my boyfriend was watching it the other day, and it was a part in a movie, and he's like, and he chases the women. Like they're all running for Hercules, and he's like looking up under their skirt, and he runs. And it's just like, it was another scene where it was like A Bug's Life. It was the ladybug. So he was a male though. And they're like, you're going to be our den mother. And he's like, I'm not a, you know what, forget about it. And it's like these same, critics and like people, adults are like, when we were growing up, we didn't have these ideals in our movie. And I'm just rewatching the movies now, and I'm like, yeah, maybe we didn't talk about the LGBTQ, but we were talking about hypersexualizing things. Like, there's no way as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, we're watching a girl go, oh, Hercules, and he's like picking up her blouse. Like, at the time, we had no clue, but I just think it's so funny, the shift in movies then and movies now. Like, less ideals about relationships and love, and more conversations about real life scenarios like sexuality, racism, ableism. And it's like, great that we're having these conversations. Kids do need to know about this, but we don't need to have it in our movies all the time to see.
Yeah, and not every movie needs.
And not every movie. Buzz Lightyear, for example, I was really excited to see the movie for what it was, a live action about Buzz's backstory, because I'm a big Toy Story fan. I don't think we needed to have the same sex couple in it. It was, and then, like, oh, we had a child. Like, I just felt like that part of the story was not necessary. And the reason I say that is because kids do know about that, especially in areas like America, because it's, it's a regular thing. But I feel like that's something parents should talk about. Like, parents are taking their kids to see these movies and then have to go home and explain, like, okay, mommy, well, why did she have two mommies instead of a mommy and a daddy like me? Or why did she have two mommies instead of two daddies like I did? Or why did she have two parents and I only have one? Like, I just feel like those are such complex ideals to just unpack in a movie. Like, oh, man.
And yeah, if it's not necessary for the story, it's not adding to the story, why are we just shoving it
it's not it was like 2 minutes. Okay, I'm in love with this woman, we found each other fighting space creatures or whatever, and then 2 minutes later we both pass away. Like, what was the point of introducing the characters to just unalive them? And then the best part was the main character, the young girl who played the soldier, Keke Palmer, I think, played her. She was in the most of the movie. So my thing is like, why couldn't we just introduce her without? And then the funniest part was that the lady who was in the same-sex relationship wasn't even her mother. It was like her great-great-grandmother. And I'm just like, Disney, I am too through with you because we did not need this, like, at all. Like, we could have just had Buzz, traveling through that time frame, and time is passing by, and he just comes back and he's like, well, my grandmother's gone, here I am. That would have been perfect. We would have got the gist. Like, okay, your grandma, this is Granny.
A lot of unnecessary stuff in that movie.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that's why a lot of critics were like, don't go see this. It was unnecessary. Like, this movie was a waste of time. But when you get past all the plot line BS and the storyline BS and really get the action and learn about who General Krog is, or General Zog, is, it was a really good film, because it's like, okay, come to find out General Zog is him. He has an internal battle with himself and time. And I thought that was great. That's a great thing to unpack for children, how time waits on no man. And how life can pass you by And ultimately, so it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think it had a really good core story. There was just a lot of fluff around it that took away
Yes.
from the impact of the actual film.
And Disney does that a lot. Just everything is so fluffy. In comparison to like the movies we saw in the 90s. I even laughed with my friend the other day and I was like, I feel like there was a point in time where Disney was ran heavily by Black executives because the movies we had, from like the themes to the soundtracks to everything having soul in it, like from the Emperor's New Groove to Hercules, I'm just like, it's crazy because you really see the shift in what Disney was from the late 80s and 90s, even up until like I'd say the early 2000s to what it is now. It's a lot more, for lack of a better term, clean cut. Like there's going to be, themes. You're going to have, of course, that universal diversity, that universal need for diversity. But back in the day, it was undiscussed. We knew, and I feel like that's why we, as like 90s kids, 80s kids, have that knowledge to be like, okay, we generally know what race is. We generally know what age is, sex, gender, and we don't have to go so hard about it. But now
Yep.
it's like, all right, I got to let you know that this is a non-binary character.
Yeah, it has to be like this big blinking red light. Like, did you see this?
Yes.
Look at this thing over here.
Pay attention. Matter of
Like,
fact, you didn't hear it in the first 10 minutes. We're going to tell you again in 20 minutes. Like,
it's like, I got it.
we're
You
going to remind you.
just put the characters in there. Just let them be people.
Just let them be. And I'm very big on that. Like, it's crazy. Even like with superheroes nowadays, there's like a certain element you have to have or a certain image you have to be a superhero. And I'm like, that's literally not what a superhero is. Like, if we took Spider-Man, for example, like, just come on. Like, Tom Holland being Superman, Spider-Man, super believable because it's not your average 6'9", 250-pound muscle man. But now when you're casting Liam Hemsworth, Chris Evans, it's like these
And
men
they all
have
get
been playing
crazy
super.
jacked out for it. You're like, oh my God.
Did you see his arms at the premiere of It scared me because I'm like, is this
They're
AI?
huge.
Like,
Yeah, they're huge. That's a big man.
huge man. And I'm like, you wouldn't think that because like he's always like shifting in weight. Like I remember he was in the movie Vacation with this funny guy from Hangover, and he wasn't as ripped as he was on like the Marvel films, but he was still in very good shape. And I'm just like, I've never met someone who could literally just drop and gain muscle like it's nothing. Like I don't know if it's like an Australian thing, but should we ever have continent wars, you guys might win. I mean, America,
Yeah.
America,
Christian
I'm not
Bale is
sure who we
another
have.
one who has done stuff like that where he goes from like he's had a couple of roles
Exactly.
where he was Batman, he was quite large. Then he's like just a regular guy, and then he had a movie where he played like a war prisoner and was incredibly skinny. It was like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, even in the Thor movie, Love and Thunder, he was very skinny. Like you saw his cheekbones. Remember he was playing for the guy who wanted his daughter back, and like the darkness was speaking to him. Yeah. So I just thought like Christian Bale is an icon. Like I am obsessed with him. Like love him. Like that's when you say a thespian and an actor, that's what I look to because he is just so his range is just out of this world. I mean, this man has played in American Psycho, he's played in Shaft, he's played in Batman, and it's just like it's so seldom that you see an actor nowadays jump categories. Like we know we have our drama actresses, like Zendaya's a drama actress. If we need something dramatic, we're gonna cast Zendaya. Comedy, if we want somebody to be funny, obviously we'll cast Tiffany Haddish or like Laurel Harry or Kevin Hart, and it's like that's great. But to see an actor really span across genres, I mean, I want that back. I need that back. I'm tired of the same three faces playing in the same three types of genres. It's overwhelming now. I don't want to see Zendaya in another movie that doesn't make sense. Like
yep.
I'm dramaed out by her.
Sydney
Love her to death.
Sweeney's been someone that has done that a bit recently with sort of dramatic roles, some silly roles like with the Anyone But You movie.
Yes, and I saw that
then
movie and I really quite enjoyed that. Her and Hitman guy, Glenn Powell. And he's another one. I actually like him as well because his range is really great too. I mean, Hitman was a great dramedy. He used to play on Scream Queens, which I fell in love with him. He played Chad, Chad, the girl's boyfriend or whatever. I forgot his name, but I thought he was great too. And I love that you brought that movie up too, because and it was set in Australia. So I watched it. It was a really good movie. It was very cute. And I liked it. It wasn't your standard, love movie, your standard, oh, we're going to fall in love and pretend we're not in love. I really liked that. It got their story too. That's where the plot was good. Like, all right, I'm a player, but I'm falling in love with this girl. And then the girl's like, I'm a lover girl, but I'm going to play this one. Like, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah. And then she also did Immaculate last year, which was a totally different role for her as well. And that was another great movie.
I have to watch it. She was really good in Euphoria to me. Like, I really liked her as a character in Euphoria. I thought her acting definitely sold it. Like, funny enough, the young woman who plays an Australian film and the Australian actor are the two best actors on the show. I think Jacob Elordi did a very good role as well. Like, I mean, to this day, if I see Jacob Elordi, we might have to have choice words. I might say, like, now why you did that? He's going to be like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, forget it. That's not even you, because now you have on the Australian accent. This is the American and Jacob I'm talking to. But I definitely think
Sydney Sweeney is a much better actress than she gets credit for, I think. Like,
I agree. And you know what it is too?
Oh, she's just the hot girl. And it's like, no,
she's
not really.
That's what I was just about to say. She's a gorgeous girl, and I won't take that from her. Body is sick, but she actually acts. Like, I could understand if it was like very similar to Halle Berry. Halle Berry is a goddess, right? But there's some roles I feel like Halle Berry, baby, you should have just sat in the back seat and just, like Catwoman. We did not need Halle Berry for Catwoman. You know what I mean? We did not. But very similar to Sydney Sweeney, I feel like her and Halle Berry coexist with being very beautiful young women, but, at their prime, but not having to conform to, I guess, everything being sexy. I love that she doesn't have to play roles where her body is shown off. Sydney Sweeney. She can choose to, because, like, girl, I got the body. But as far as, like, choosing to, she doesn't have to. She has the range to be an actress.
Immaculate, she's in, like, a nun's outfit the entire time. So
I have to watch that film.
It's not about her body at all.
I love that. And I feel like that's important too. But it's, Hollywood, they not only are they sexualizing the women, they're sexualizing the men too. I mean, Brad Pitt has been a hot throb for years. Tom Cruise. I mean,
Glenn Powell, they even made him get his shirt off in Twisters.
Oh my God. They have his shirt off and everything. I mean, like, the last couple movies I've watched him in, his shirt is off. And he's a handsome young man. Please do not get me wrong. But it's just like, I see so much more of him. But Hollywood, of course, is gonna, oh, you're so hot, you're so fine. I even think they're gonna do that with the Jolie Pitt kids too, because I mean, they have won the genetic lottery. They all, I mean, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, like, you're bound to be a beautiful young woman or a handsome young man. So I'm just waiting to see how they, indulge into the film industry. And, if little Brad Pitt becomes a little Brad Pitt for real, like, because they have that background. I think the daughters were in Maleficent, the youngest one.
Not sure.
Yeah, I believe the youngest one was. So, I mean, they have that background. I think is really cute. It's just, it's exciting to see what not only the future of the wrestling industry has, but also the film industry too. But yeah, we are coming up on our hour. I could talk all day, Jamie. I really could. But is there any news or upcoming things you have in the pipeline that you would love to share with the audience? Like, I know you said you talked a little bit about your company within the trading cards. Is there any new and exciting announcements? What about on the end of any critiques or reviews that you have coming up? Please, this is your moment to be a shameless plug. I want you to talk about everything.
So we've just released the first pack for 2025 of the trading cards, the February release. So that's currently up for pre-orders, obviously shipping in February. And then review-wise, I'm trying to think what's coming up. Oh, we've got Baby Girl coming up. I'm very excited for that film because
that is exciting.
Australia is delayed on everything apparently, so America is.
I will say you guys are delayed as far as on your end, but I feel like you guys have been pushing it out the movies. I mean, you got Zac Efron out there doing the thing. You guys are trying to steal from us as far as our talent, but it's okay. We're not mad. Well, so, if you take whatchamacallit from us, Denzel, we might have to fight because I mean you already got Glenn and Zach, so and Nicole. Kidman.
Yep. Yes, I'm excited for the Baby Girl movie. Wolfman is coming up soon as well. And for me, the biggest one that's on my list for this year is 28 Years Later. That movie is one I've been
Yes,
super
I'm
eager for.
excited.
So I'm just constantly emailing people and like, hey, when is this available? When can I check this out? I want to review this. And our plan is to go back and rewatch the previous two, and we'll do some of our frightening flashbacks episodes to review those previous ones and get everybody all caught up before the new one comes out.
I love that. I'm excited for 28 Years Later too. I actually just found out maybe like a couple weeks ago, right before the new year, that they had one coming out, and I audibly screamed. Like, I was so excited because as a kid, I really loved the film, and I was like, I hope they come out. That was one remake I was like, I hope they come out with. So I'm really excited to see how they differ it from the one in the past, and if it'll be even more CGI. I mean, for at the time, the CGI they had was pretty good for the year it came out. I mean, I'm always comparing CGI for each year, but I'm really excited to see what they have for the 2025 CGI, because the CGI over the past couple of years, they've had the early 2000s looking like we were in 2055. And, and now I feel like we're back in 1987 with the CGI we be having going on. I'm like, come on. It's 2025.
Some of it is not great at the moment.
No, not at all.
Cheap out on a lot.
I forgot what movie I was watching. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. Oh, I was watching Fantastic Four 2, the one Rise of the Silver Surfer. I was on TikTok very heavy, and they're like, oh, Silver Surfer didn't even have powers. His power was just aura. And I was like, I have to go watch this movie because TikTok will really have you thinking certain things. And then when I saw the movie, the CGI wasn't as bad as people were making it seem, but it was this one scene he was dancing in a club with women, and I was just like, no way. I feel like the CGI budget ran out, and they were just like, all right, let's do a 1992 Tom and Jerry animation.
Yep.
But it was really good CGI for back in the day. I think Beowulf had really good CGI too for the time frame it came out. So I'm excited to see that too. Very excited.
Yep.
I would love to talk about that too. So please, when you have the episode come out, please send it over to me, and I would love to like potentially collab and talk about how you saw it first, and I took your review and now I'm gonna have my own review. That would be super fun. And your partner as well. That would be a great, if I can be on your podcast, I think that would be a great discussion, because I'm super excited to see the film too.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for jumping on the podcast. Thank you incredulously, because I had such a great time talking movies with you. I'm definitely going to check out them trading cards. So I definitely need the link after this to see what they look like. And I'm definitely going to share it with my friends. So if you have somebody random by the name of Mr. PPV, inbox you like, hey, I'm sorry in advance. But he is like obsessed. He loves wrestling. So again, thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate it. I can't wait to jump on your platform and talk movies. I love a good movie. Like, obsessed. But thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off, where people can find you, where people can find your podcast? Please let people know where they can learn more about you as well, or, where they can go purchase some trading cards.
My pleasure. Thank you again for having me on. The best place to find me is pariomagazine.com.au. All of the trading cards, podcasts, links to social media are all on there. So that's the easiest way to do it.
That's amazing. And you guys better go check out Jamie's stuff. I mean, I would trust you in my life, because not only are you on the element of trading cards, but movies too. I feel like when you can speak to somebody, about movies and books wholeheartedly, and it just be such an easygoing conversation, that's the people you should be around. Like, that's the things I would like to argue. Books, movies, wrestlers, we could talk about that. Save the politics, the religion, and all of those arguments for social media. Yep. But again, Jamie, thank you so much. I appreciate it entirely, and I can't wait to see what you have in a pipeline and any future upcoming events you have. I'm super excited to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.